Captain Marcus Webb stood in the pristine white corridors of the Galactic Station Harmony, adjusting his diplomatic uniform one last time. The fabric felt heavier today, weighted with the responsibility of representing not just the United Earth Alliance, but the entire human species in their first formal cultural exchange with an alien civilization. The station hummed with activity around him. Maintenance drones glided silently overhead, their sensors sweeping for any imperfections in the carefully controlled environment. Through the massive observation windows, Marcus could see the swirling nebula that gave the station its name, a cosmic dance of purple and gold that had served as a neutral meeting ground for countless species over the centuries. Today marked humanity's first formal cultural exchange with the Zephyrian Federation, and Marcus couldn't help but feel the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. 3 months of preparation, diplomatic protocols, and cultural briefings had led to this moment. The xenobiologists had assured him that the Zephyrians were peaceful, intellectually curious, and eager to establish positive relations with humanity. The Zephyrians were elegant beings, tall and slender with translucent blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the artificial light. Their movements were fluid, almost dance-like, as if they were perpetually floating through water. Most striking were their large, multifaceted eyes that seemed to capture and reflect light in ways that human eyes couldn't quite comprehend. They had no visible mouth, which had initially puzzled the human delegation until they learned that Zephyrians communicated through a complex system of vibrations produced by their gill-like appendages. Ambassador Crixveld, their leader, approached with what Marcus had learned was their equivalent of a welcoming gesture, a gentle vibration of their gill-like appendages that produced a sound like wind chimes in a soft breeze. The ambassador's skin shifted to a lighter shade of blue, which the cultural briefings had indicated was a positive sign. "Greetings, human Captain Webb," Ambassador Crixveld spoke through their universal translator, the voice carrying melodic undertones that seemed to harmonize with itself. "We are excited to learn of your species' customs. We have studied your technological achievements and social structures, but we find ourselves most curious about your daily life practices. Perhaps we might begin with your nutritional consumption rituals?" Marcus smiled, thinking this would be the easy part. Food was universal, wasn't it? Every species needed energy to survive. "Of course. We prepared a traditional human meal to share with you. Nothing too exotic, just some basic foods from Earth that represent our culinary culture." He gestured toward the adjacent dining hall where his team had spent hours arranging what they considered a perfect introduction to human cuisine. Fresh bread, various cheeses, seasonal fruits and vegetables, and some simple prepared dishes that showcased humanity's relationship with food. They had deliberately avoided anything that might be too shocking, no exotic meats or unusual preparations. The Zephyrian delegation exchanged what Marcus assumed were pleased vibrations, their gill appendages creating a symphony of gentle sounds. Their skin colors shifted through various shades of blue and pale green, which the briefings had suggested indicated curiosity and anticipation. Little did Marcus know he was about to shatter everything they thought they knew about sentient life in the universe. The human diplomatic team had set up a modest dining area in the station's cultural exchange hall, a space designed specifically for interspecies meetings. The walls were a neutral beige, with adjustable lighting that could accommodate the visual preferences of various alien species. Marcus watched as the Zephyrians approached the table with scientific curiosity, their large, multifaceted eyes scanning the spread before them like researchers examining specimens in a laboratory. Dr. Jennifer Martinez, the team's xenobiologist, stood ready with her portable scanner, eager to document the aliens' reactions for future diplomatic protocols. Lieutenant Commander Riley Thompson had his cultural analysis tablet prepared, while Chef Antonio Rodriguez waited nervously in the background, proud of the carefully selected Earth foods he had prepared. The table itself was a masterpiece of human culinary diplomacy. Fresh bread rolls sat in wicker baskets, their golden crusts still warm from the station's ovens. Wheels of aged cheese from various Earth regions were artfully arranged on wooden boards. Colorful fruits and vegetables created a rainbow display that Marcus thought surely any species would find appealing. "This is bread," Marcus began, holding up a simple wheat roll with obvious pride. The grain's surface caught the light, revealing the complex texture that spoke of centuries of human agricultural development. "It's made from ground seeds that we cultivate across vast fields on our planet. Wheat is one of humanity's most important crops. The Zephyrian's gill appendages began vibrating rapidly. A sign Marcus had learned indicated extreme surprise or distress. The sound was no longer the gentle wind chimes of their greeting, but something more urgent, like warning bells in a storm. Ambassador Crixvel's skin began shifting through rapid color changes, cycling from light blue to deeper shades of purple and back again. The translator seemed to struggle with the concept, producing several false starts before finally rendering speech. You consume the reproductive organs of plants? Ambassador Crixvel's voice carried a tremor that the universal translator couldn't quite mask. That the seeds contain the genetic essence of future plant generations. You deliberately harvest and consume potential life. Marcus blinked, suddenly seeing the innocent wheat roll in a completely different light. Well, technically seeds, but yes, he replied, not understanding the growing alarm in the room. He had expected cultural differences, but this reaction seemed extreme. It's quite nutritious, actually. And this is cheese, it's made from the milk of mammals. The entire Zephyrian delegation took a step back in unison, their movements creating a wave of translucent blue that rippled across the dining area. Their gill appendages were now vibrating at such a frequency that it created an almost musical chord of distress. One of their scientists, Veltran, whose skin had turned an alarming shade of deep purple, spoke up with what the translator rendered as barely controlled horror. You extract and consume the infant nutrition fluids of other creatures? The sacred bond between mother and offspring, you commodify this. Marcus felt his confidence wavering. The word sacred hung in the air like an accusation. I suppose that's one way to put it. But it's completely natural for us. We've been doing it for thousands of years. The animals aren't harmed in the process. The Zephyrians huddled together, their skin colors now cycling through what Marcus was beginning to recognize as their equivalent of panic. Their gill appendages created a symphony of distressed vibrations that filled the room with an otherworldly sound. But wait, Marcus said, desperately trying to salvage the situation until you see what we do with fruits and vegetables. Dr. Jennifer Martinez, the team's xenobiologist, stepped forward with a bowl of fresh salad, completely unaware of the psychological trauma she was about to inflict on the Zephyrian delegation. Her enthusiasm for sharing Earth's bounty was evident in her bright smile and confident posture as she held the colorful arrangement of vegetation. This is one of my personal favorites, she said cheerfully, her voice carrying the warmth of someone sharing a treasured family recipe. A mixed salad with lettuce, tomatoes, carrots, and onions. All fresh and crisp, harvested just hours ago from our hydroponic gardens on the station. The bowl contained a vibrant display of Earth's agricultural diversity. Crisp green lettuce leaves formed the foundation, their edges still glistening with tiny droplets of moisture. Bright red tomatoes had been cut into perfect wedges, their seeds visible in the translucent gel that surrounded them. Orange carrots were julienned into thin strips that caught the light like miniature spears, while thin slices of purple onions added rings of color throughout the mixture. Ambassador Crixvel's skin began shifting to a deeper shade of blue, the color change rippling across their translucent form like waves on a disturbed pond. What Marcus now realized might not be a good sign was confirmed when the ambassador's gill appendages began producing a low, mournful sound that seemed to echo through the entire hall. You consume living plant matter? Veltran whispered, their translator barely picking up the trembling voice that seemed to come from the very depths of their being. While it still contains life essence, while the cellular structures still maintain their integrity, the Zephyrian scientist's skin had turned an alarming shade of deep purple, almost black at the edges, and their entire form seemed to be trembling. The other members of their delegation had begun backing away from the table, their movements creating a semicircle of horrified observers. Well, we pick it first, Dr. Martinez clarified, trying to be helpful while remaining oblivious to the existential crisis she was triggering. The vegetables are harvested at peak freshness to ensure maximum nutritional value. Though some people do eat sprouts, which are technically still growing, they're quite popular in salads and sandwiches. The mention of consuming actively growing plants seemed to be the final straw. The Zephyrians huddled together, their gill appendages creating a symphony of distressed vibrations that filled the room with an otherworldly chorus of what could only be described as mourning. Marcus could hear fragments of their untranslated speech, rapid, high-pitched sounds that suggested panic, interspersed with deeper, more resonant tones that seemed to carry the weight of profound philosophical distress. Their skin colors were now cycling through the entire spectrum of their emotional range, deep purples, alarming blacks, and occasionally flashing to what Marcus suspected might be their equivalent of nausea. The translator was struggling to keep up with the rapid-fire conversation taking place among the delegation. Perhaps, Dr. Martinez continued, her scientific enthusiasm completely overriding her diplomatic awareness, you'd like to try some of our cooked foods? We have chicken, which is a no. Ambassador Crixvel's translator amplified their cry, the sound reverberating through the hall with such force that it seemed to shake the very walls. Please, human Dr. Martinez, do not describe the chicken just yet. We need a moment to process what we have learned. The implications are overwhelming. The ambassador's form was now trembling visibly, their skin a deep, almost midnight blue that spoke of profound distress. The Zephyrians requested a recess, and Marcus found himself in an emergency conference with his team in the station's secured briefing room. The walls were lined with holographic displays showing diplomatic protocols, xenobiological data, and cultural analysis charts that now seemed woefully inadequate for the situation they faced. Through the observation window, they could see the alien delegation in what appeared to be an intense discussion in the station's meditation chamber. The Zephyrians had arranged themselves in a perfect circle, their skin colors shifting through various shades of blue and purple in synchronized patterns that suggested some form of complex communication beyond their spoken language. Their gill appendages moved in rhythmic waves, creating harmonious vibrations that resonated through the station's hull. I don't understand, Marcus said, rubbing his temples as he stared at the diplomatic disaster unfolding before them. What's so shocking about basic food? We ran this through every cultural sensitivity protocol in the database. The Xenobiology department assured us that nutritional needs were universal. Lieutenant Commander Riley Thompson, their cultural liaison, had been frantically reviewing their xenobiological databases on his tablet, cross-referencing every piece of available information about Zephyrian physiology and social structure. His fingers flew across the holographic interface, pulling up charts, diagrams, and research reports that painted an increasingly clear picture. Captain, I think I figured it out, Thompson said, his voice carrying the weight of a terrible realization. Look at this physiological analysis. The Zephyrians are photosynthetic organisms. They literally survive on sunlight and mineral absorption through their skin. Their entire biology is built around converting stellar radiation directly into usable energy. Dr. Martinez gasped, her scientific mind immediately grasping the implications. That means they've never encountered a species that actually consumes other organic matter. In their entire evolutionary history, in all their contact with other civilizations, they've only known species that derive energy from non-living sources. The weight of this revelation settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Marcus stared at the data streaming across the displays, showing the Zephyrians' unique physiology, their society built around harmony with their environment, their philosophy of minimal impact on other life forms. To them, Marcus began, the words catching in his throat. Monsters, Dr. Martinez finished grimly, her voice barely above a whisper. We're literally the stuff of their nightmares. Imagine if we encountered a species that survived by consuming human thoughts or emotions. That's probably how they see us right now. Chef Rodriguez, who had been silent throughout the discussion, finally spoke up. All my life, I've believed that food brings people together. I've cooked for diplomats, for peace negotiations, for celebrations. I never imagined that something as simple as bread could be seen as monstrous. The room fell silent as the magnitude of their cultural differences became clear. Through the window, they could see the Zephyrians' discussion becoming more animated, their skin colors shifting more rapidly, their gill appendages creating increasingly complex harmonic patterns. When the Zephyrians finally returned to the Cultural Exchange Hall, Ambassador Crixvel approached with visible caution, their movements more deliberate and measured than before. Their skin had settled into a deep, contemplative blue, and their gill appendages produced only soft, measured vibrations. Human Captain Webb, the ambassador began, their voice carrying a gravity that hadn't been there before, we must ask. How do your people acquire these foods? Do you cultivate other life forms specifically for consumption? Marcus winced, knowing that his answer would only deepen their horror. Well, yes. We have farms for crops and livestock for meat. The translator fell silent for a long moment, processing not just the words but the implications. Then, slowly, it rendered Ambassador Crixvel's response, you deliberately create life to destroy it? For sustenance. The weight of humanity's entire existence as predators and consumers suddenly hit Marcus like a physical blow, leaving him struggling to find words that could possibly bridge this philosophical chasm. The tension in the room was palpable as Marcus tried to explain humanity's relationship with food. The air seemed to vibrate with unspoken accusations and misunderstandings that threatened to derail the entire diplomatic mission. The Zephyrians listened with what could only be described as morbid fascination, their multifaceted eyes reflecting the overhead lights in patterns that suggested they were recording every word for future analysis. "It's not just about destruction," Marcus said carefully, choosing each word as if navigating a minefield. "We've developed sustainable practices, crop rotation, conservation efforts. Many of our agricultural methods actually improve the soil and support biodiversity. We're not mindless destroyers, we're cultivators, gardeners of life." Ambassador Crixvel's skin shifted to a deeper shade of blue, the color rippling across their form like waves of contemplation. "But you still end life to continue your own," they interrupted, their voice carrying a weight that transcended mere words. "You speak of cultivation, but the ultimate purpose is termination. You grow life with the sole intention of ending it." Veltran, the Zephyrian scientist, had been taking readings with some sort of bioscanner throughout the conversation. Their skin was now a deep purple that Marcus suspected indicated philosophical distress. "The energy expenditure alone," they murmured, "to create complex life forms only to destroy them for energy transfer. It seems inefficient, wasteful, almost cruel." Dr. Martinez, ever the scientist, tried a different approach. Her background in xenobiology had taught her to look for common ground in the most alien of circumstances. "Ambassador, surely your people understand the concept of energy transfer? The fundamental laws of thermodynamics apply throughout the universe. Nothing is truly lost, it's transformed from one state to another." "Yes," Ambassador Crixvel replied slowly, their gill appendages producing a soft, contemplative vibration, "but we obtain our energy directly from the stellar radiation and mineral absorption. We participate in the cosmic energy cycle without requiring the termination of other conscious entities. We are symbiotic with existence rather than parasitic upon it." Lieutenant Commander Thompson interjected, his diplomatic training kicking in. "Plants aren't conscious, though. They don't have central nervous systems, they don't experience pain or fear. They're fundamentally different from animals." The Zephyrian's gill appendages began that rapid vibration again, creating a sound that was becoming increasingly familiar, the alien equivalent of shocked disbelief. Their skin colors cycled through rapid changes, and Marcus could see additional members of their delegation entering the room, drawn by what he suspected were chemical or pheromone signals indicating distress. "Human Thompson," Ambassador Crixvel said, their voice carrying a gravity that made the universal translator strain to convey the emotional weight. "In our understanding, all life possesses some form of awareness. Your people consume multiple forms of life daily. Some that think, some that feel, some that grow toward light with purpose and intention." The statement hung in the air like a philosophical bomb. Marcus felt the weight of millennia of human evolution, of agricultural development, of culinary tradition, all suddenly called into question by beings who had never known hunger, never known the primal need to consume other life to survive. "But surely," Dr. Martinez pressed, "you must recognize that different forms of life exist on a spectrum of consciousness? A wheat plant cannot be equated with a mammal in terms of awareness or capacity for suffering." "Perhaps not," Veltran replied, their scanner beeping softly. "But your species makes these distinctions based on your own biological imperatives. You classify consciousness in ways that justify your consumption patterns. From our perspective, you are debating which forms of murder are acceptable." The human delegation fell silent as the magnitude of how different their species truly were began to sink in, leaving them grappling with questions about the very nature of existence, consciousness, and survival. The next day brought a breakthrough that none of the human delegation had expected. The station's artificial dawn cycle was just beginning when Ambassador Crixvel approached Marcus in the observation lounge, where he had been staring out at the swirling nebula, contemplating the philosophical chasm that seemed to separate their species. The ambassador's appearance was markedly different from the previous day. Their skin had returned to its normal translucent blue, but there was a new quality to the light that seemed to emanate from within, something that Marcus had learned to recognize as deep contemplation rather than distress. Their movements were more deliberate, more purposeful, as if they had reached some internal resolution. Human Captain Webb, Ambassador Crixville began, their gill appendages producing measured, harmonious vibrations that created an almost musical quality to their speech. We have spent much time in contemplation. Our meditation cycles have been devoted to processing what we have learned about your species' nature. Marcus felt a surge of relief mixed with apprehension. The past 18 hours had been some of the longest of his diplomatic career, filled with emergency communications to Earth, frantic consultations with xenobiologists, and the very real possibility that humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization would end in complete cultural rejection. While your species' methods of sustenance are profoundly alien to us, the ambassador continued, we have come to recognize that this is your nature. We do not judge the stellar winds for their path through space, nor do we condemn the cosmic radiation for its intensity. These are forces of the universe following their inherent patterns. The comparison struck Marcus as both beautiful and troubling. Were humans being compared to natural disasters? Thank you, Ambassador. We understand this must be incredibly difficult to process. We never intended to cause such distress. Indeed, Crixville continued, their skin shifting to lighter shades of blue that Marcus now recognized as indicating curiosity rather than alarm, but we have observed something remarkable during our analysis. Your species has developed complex systems around this consumption. You have agriculture, animal husbandry, preservation methods, and even recreational food preparation? You call it cooking? The word seemed to fascinate them, their gill appendages vibrating with what Marcus was learning to interpret as intellectual excitement. Dr. Martinez, who had been monitoring the conversation from across the lounge, approached with cautious optimism. Yes. Dr. Martinez nodded enthusiastically, her scientific passion overriding diplomatic caution. Cooking is both an art and a science for us. We combine ingredients in countless ways, apply various forms of heat, use spices and seasonings to enhance flavors, and create entirely new taste experiences. Spices? Veltran inquired, having joined the conversation with what appeared to be genuine curiosity rather than horror. Their bioscanner was still active, but the readings seemed to indicate fascination rather than revulsion. Aromatic compounds from various plants that enhance flavor, Dr. Martinez explained, her voice gaining confidence as she sensed genuine interest. We have literally thousands of different spices from across Earth. Each region has developed its own unique combinations and techniques passed down through generations. The Zephyrians exchanged what Marcus now recognized as their equivalent of surprised glances, their skin colors shifting through patterns he was beginning to interpret as amazement. You consume multiple life forms simultaneously for pleasure as well as sustenance? Ambassador Crixville asked, the translator rendering their tone as one of scientific wonderment. That's technically accurate, Marcus admitted, realizing how it sounded when stated so bluntly. But it's also much more than that. Food is culture, tradition, art, and social bonding all combined into one essential human experience. The final day of the cultural exchange brought an unexpected development that would reshape both species' understanding of each other. The Zephyrians had requested a demonstration of human cooking, approaching it with the same scientific rigor they might apply to studying a potentially dangerous but fascinating natural phenomenon. The station's main cultural hall had been converted into an observation theater, with the Zephyrians arranged in a semicircle around a portable cooking station that had been specially installed for the demonstration. Their bioscanners were active, recording everything from temperature fluctuations to molecular changes in the air. What Marcus found most remarkable was that they were no longer maintaining what they clearly considered a safe distance. They had moved closer, their curiosity finally overcoming their initial revulsion. Chef Antonio Rodriguez, specially brought from Earth for the occasion, had spent the previous evening planning what he considered the perfect demonstration of human culinary artistry. He moved with the practiced grace of someone who had spent decades perfecting his craft, his hands confident as he prepared a simple pasta dish while the Zephyrians observed with rapt attention. The wheat is ground and mixed with water and eggs, Chef Rodriguez explained, his voice carrying the passion that had made him one of Earth's most celebrated chefs. His hands worked the dough with practiced expertise, kneading it into a smooth, elastic consistency. The eggs come from birds, but these are unfertilized, so no potential life is lost. They serve as a binding agent and provide richness to the texture. Ambassador Crixville's skin shifted to a lighter blue, the color change rippling across their form like a wave of relief. You have ethical considerations in your consumption? They asked, their gill appendages producing vibrations that the translator rendered as cautious hope. Of course, Marcus replied, sensing an opportunity to bridge the philosophical gap that had separated them. Many humans choose to eat only plants, others are very concerned about animal welfare, and we're developing artificial alternatives to traditional farming. There are entire movements dedicated to reducing suffering in our food systems. The implications of this revelation seemed to wash over the Zephyrian delegation like a tide. Veltran's bioscanner began producing rapid beeping sounds as it detected what Marcus assumed were elevated stress indicators, but this time it seemed to be excitement rather than horror. Fascinating, Veltran murmured, their skin cycling through shades of blue and green that Marcus was learning indicated deep intellectual engagement. So your species recognizes the weight of your consumption and actively seeks to minimize suffering? You have developed ethical frameworks around necessity? Many of us do, Dr. Martinez confirmed, her voice gaining strength as she saw the aliens' growing understanding. We're not mindless consumers. We think about the impact of our choices, we develop technologies to reduce harm, and we constantly question our relationship with the life around us. The Zephyrians watched in fascination as Chef Rodriguez continued his demonstration, rolling the pasta dough into thin sheets and cutting them into precise ribbons. The aroma of fresh pasta began to fill the room, a scent that spoke of tradition, craftsmanship, and generations of culinary evolution. The complexity, Ambassador Crixville said finally, their voice carrying a note of wonder that the translator struggled to convey, is extraordinary. You have taken what we initially perceived as a brutal necessity and transformed it into art, culture, philosophy, and even ethical contemplation. Chef Rodriguez finished the pasta, tossing it with fresh herbs, golden olive oil, and aged Parmesan cheese. The simple dish represented thousands of years of human agricultural development, culinary innovation, and cultural exchange. The golden strands caught the light, steam rising in delicate spirals that carried the complex aromas of Earth's bounty. Marcus smiled, feeling for the first time since the exchange began that they might actually achieve understanding. Food brings us together. It's how we show love, celebrate achievements, comfort each other during difficult times. It's one of the most fundamentally human things we do. Then perhaps, Ambassador Crixville said, their skin brightening to an almost iridescent blue that seemed to glow from within. What initially appeared monstrous is actually beautiful in its own way. Your species has found meaning and connection through the very act that sustains you. As the cultural exchange concluded, both species had gained something invaluable. The humans had learned to see their relationship with food through alien eyes, recognizing both its necessity and its profound implications, while the Zephyrians had discovered that even the most shocking differences between species could lead to greater understanding and appreciation. The universe, it seemed, was vast enough for both photosynthetic philosophers and omnivorous chefs, each finding their own path through the cosmic dance of existence.